Okay, everyone, we're back up and running. I had some technical difficulties with the episode 45, so it kind of cut off because I ran out of room to record, so it just cut off. So, in previous episode 45, we were going over, I was having breakfast, it was virtual coffee time, and yes, I'm still drinking coffee. Um, and I'm recording these on my phone, so I'm not editing anything. If I have a mishap, I'm just uploading and go do what I gotta go do with appointments and whatever else. And now I'm back in my room. My next appointment is until 2 o'clock, so I'm going to try to get episode 46 done, which is actually going to be just part two of episode 45. But since 45 was so limited and everything. But you got to see in episode 45 me eating breakfast, and the breakfast, me drinking coffee, and that virtual coffee time was sponsored by Jason Youngdale, etc. And if you look in episode 45, you can find his Clash of Steel website, which has all of his cool RPGs on there. It's www.clashofsteel.us. All right, and then he's also at Drive-Thru RPG with all of his PDFs. So you can pick up his PDFs at Drive-Thru RPG under Jason Youngdale. Just search Jason Youngdale and they'll all come up. Sage and Sand, Dragon's Teeth, all of the adventures that was previously mentioned in 45. And I'm going to do a little bit more in depth about me and Jason Youngdale. So I met Jason Youngdale through MaricopaCon and through Leprechaun. And he basically did Conflagration and was very good. And then when I did Conflagration, he was very good to help me out and whatever else. So, and I've been a GM of his at MaricopaCon in the past. And I missed out MaricopaCon last couple of years because, one, Jason didn't tell me what the dates were. And two, I was stuck in Louisiana anyway. So anyway, Jason, you need to let me know when the next MaricopaCon comes and see if I can make it. All right, there we go. Also, any more Kickstarters, you fill me in on so that I can help you promote them, since you said that you were jealous of me helping to promote Zimrala. So if you don't let me know, how can I promote it? There you go. All right, so that's on you, buddy. So, because I would have at least done a few videos about your Kickstarter for Dragon's Teeth in 2021. All right, but it was successfully kickstarted, so we're moving on. And now I got a copy of Dragon's Teeth, so I am not going to go into depth about Dragon's Teeth because I'm not that familiar with Dragon's Teeth. But what I am going to go into in depth with is Sage and Sand. So at Free RPG Day, when I was staying at Tony Pagamus's house, Jason Youngdale set up with Darren Johnson, who owns Imperial Outpost in Glendale, set up with me to run a table of Jason Youngdale's game, Sage and Sand. And then there was another game that I was to run too, and I don't remember what it was. But the Sage and Sand one was about a group of military people who survived in an underground bunker, and years later they were to reestablish communications and see what type of devastation there was with the communications array. So that meant that they had to go outside and try to get the GPS working, etc., and to see what type of mutants there were. And I've recently turned that into, and mentioned in 45 that I was going to write Fort Freedom. That was basically my intro into Fort Freedom. It was only a couple of hour RPG. I put it together. I made up my own characters, etc., and made it more military. So, the nice thing about Sage and Sand is you can go military, you can go civilian mutant, you can just about do anything with Sage and Sand. The cool thing about Sage and Sand is you could even make your favorite X-Men in Sage and Sand. Yes, you could. You could take your favorite DC or Marvel characters and actually use Sage and Sand rules and apply the mutant rules to them. Obviously, Bruce Wayne, of course, and Green Arrow and a few of those, along with Hawkeye and a few others. Instead of making them mutants, you could easily make them with archaic bows and gadgetry and military hardware without being mutant. So they have no superpowers or mutant powers, but they do have better intellect and or have inventors side of things, and they can actually invent their own gear and have unique gear and be able to put their own unique gear together. So you could do an archer type character by him being a Boyer Fletcher, for instance. So you could do that with Sage and Sand. You could easily build a Boyer Fletcher, and he could make his own bow, he can make his own arrows, and basically be trained in type of military science or archaic weapons. He could basically be like a hunter type character that actually survived in the wilderness of the Tonto Rim. So one of the things about Fort Freedom is it was going to be somewhere in the Mojave Desert, is what Fort Freedom originally had. But now that I have the Lost Dutchman mine, and I've been doing a little bit of research on the Apache Trail in and around the area of the Superstition Mountains, where I've hiked before as a Boy Scout and in my younger youth. I haven't been there in recent years. Obviously, since 2015, I've been in and out of Arizona and in and out of Shreveport, Louisiana, and in and out of New York City, and just traveling around the country, basically getting into all kinds of mischief and stuff. So I basically am stuck in Shreveport, Louisiana. I have a room with a nice bathroom. I have to share a kitchen, but it's not too bad. It's through Easter Seals of Louisiana, so they're helping me right now. So that's kind of cool. In that, so I am not technically homeless. I'm not camping out this summer. So I'm just going to stay here for as long as I have housing. So people have asked me, like OT Turtle and Michael, if I've returned to Arizona. No, I'm still in Shreveport, Louisiana. So if you're watching episodes of Logging with Earl, I'm doing that. And this episode is supposed to be a follow-up about Jason Youngdale, so I'll go more in depth on my housing situation as it comes available. But just know that I'm in a safe place right now and everything's good, and I'm receiving shipments here. And in previous video, I think episode 45 or episode 44, where we were in the game room, I basically gave everybody my mailing address. So if you guys want, go to episode 44, get my mailing address, and you guys can ship stuff here. It's also my physical address. So basically, and of course, there's people still hunting me. So if you want to hunt me, I just told the world exactly where I'm at. So in this episode, to make it easier, it's 725 Jordan Street, room number 14, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. And Jason Youngdale shipped me, as I said earlier, he shipped me Maxwell Coffee for virtual coffee time. And he will be sponsoring that, and he's sponsoring my Saturday morning gaming here in the game room. So I'm currently in my room doing episode 46. This is Wednesday. Episode 45 was Wednesday morning, by the way, with me eating breakfast and actually doing and going through some things. So Sage and Sand, I really like. I think Jason did a really good job in writing it. It was really well done. It's not as, he says it's not as tight as some of his other, or fully fleshed out or whatever else, but I had been working on, since that RPG day, when I first ran it, off and on, as I've had time to reflect and time to basically think about, because one of the things that I wanted to do with the game, Sage and Sand, was I wanted to do it justice, but I needed a way to, and I realized this early on, I needed a way to fudge things. And one of the things that I needed to fudge things with was missions. What type of missions would they go on? What type of stuff could they get into? So I was looking at different types of different post-apocalyptic games, post-apocalyptic stuff, and coming up with GM tables, Game Master tables, that could reflect, and using at first a D10, then a D20, and now I'm up to a D100, basically. So I'm actually fine tuning those, getting those all done, um, and upgrading. And he said that he wanted new material for the over the course of the next 2 to 3 months, plus a couple of vlogs, and a mention on my website, which I haven't done yet. Adventures of Captain Hedges blog is actually up and running. And for those of you that have been there, thank you very much. I'm not putting any advertisements on there. You're not going to be bothered with me trying to sell you stuff that you don't need. We do not have a store yet. I'm not going that route right now, because number one, I got hacked. I'm just going to say I got hacked, and I'm dealing with the aftermath of that, and I'm going to leave it alone. Some of you already know in private chats what's going on, and the rest of you, it doesn't matter. Just know that that I'm taking care of business. All right, moving on. With more Sage and Sand. Fort Freedom is supposed to be a Sage and Sand, probably located somewhere in the Mojave Desert, or possibly going to be somewhere in the Superstition Mountains, or probably I'm going to try to get like several different locations where you could run your game. So I'm just going to give Jason like this adventure could possibly be run in the following locations. Okay, so that way you could get multiple locations. Like if you want to run the Mojave Desert, bam, you can run the Mojave Desert. If you want to run along the Tonto Rim, here's the way to run along the Tonto Rim. If you want to run in the Superstition Mountains, this is the way to run in the Superstition Mountains. If you want to run it in the White Mountains along the Tonto Rim, Mogollon Rim is what it's also called, and hunt down Mogollon Monster. And perhaps that the nuclear war and the after effects is that the Mogollon monsters have basically been able to become mutants, and now you're dealing with mutant Sasquatches, or shamanic Sasquatch mutants that have basically magical power, and they basically have even more magical power now. Who knows? I'm still in writing and developing this, and now I'm actually having a reason to, because Jason says that whatever I send him, he's going to publish. So I'm like, oh. So I got an opportunity to prove to Jason that I can write some cool stuff. I don't care if I get paid for it or not. He says that I could get some money off of it. I'm not looking at this to get rich. I'm not looking at this for the money. I'm looking at this to provide good gaming content to game masters and how I would run a game. And also I'm going to put in there little tidbits about how I would run Sage and Sand if I was running this campaign. And it's going to be a full campaign game master adventure / campaign module where you can actually use Fort Freedom in different types of locations, and you could actually say this is and maybe it's Fort Mojave. Okay, maybe I'll do, okay, Fort Freedom is known as Fort Mojave in this location. It's known as this in this location. It's known as this in this location. I'm still working all that. I'm still doing some stuff. But if I set it in the Superstition Mountains, obviously I'm going to tie it into the Sage and Sand Adventure Lost Hutchins Mine. That way you could actually incorporate that adventure into it. What happens if a group of mercenaries basically gets trapped in the Amazon rainforest after post-apocalyptic, or perhaps you're a group of mutants in the rainforest or something else? That will probably be something that I do later on down the road. So right now I'm concentrating on Sage and Sand, give him new content, whatever else that he could publish in a couple of months, 2 to 3 months, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do stuff. And of course, I was moving around the camera and everything else, and so I don't think everybody got a good look at some of the gaming material that he sent. So what I'm going to do is actually try to I don't know how to reverse this. See, the problem is I don't know how to reverse while I'm recording. So I just don't know where the reverse is. It says it's currently unlocked. It says that it's currently this, whatever else. And of course, the mic is sensitive, so I don't want to